Welcome to Crowning Around, where every woman wears a crown, whether she's 17 or 70. I'm Joan Caliendo, and this is the space where magic happens when women empower women. Each week, we'll dig into topics like ageism, stepping into your power, and everything in between. And today, we're kicking it all off with a queen in her own right. Me, Ms. New York Senior America.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Back to School edition, which is my favorite edition because I don't have to go back to school after 39 years in the classroom and 20 as a student. I am officially on summer break forever. But I brought with me the best person I could ever think of to do a Back to School edition for, and that is my sister, who happens to be the United Federation of Teachers VP for non-DOE, follow along, and her name is Ann Goldman. Can we put up the first shot, please, Bobby? This is my super professional sister who represents the Department of Education for non-educators. Correct me, say the right title.
So for private sector, and all members who are not employees of the DOE. So that can be charter schools, childcare, a variety of titles.
Got it? Okay, as we move along and introduce my guest this evening, we're going to talk about advice we would give to our younger self. And since we've known each other since we were very, very young, we'd like to start with our first photo of the four of us growing up in Brooklyn across from Holy Name Parish on Prospect Avenue. And there we are. Look at that adorable group of children. And those four Moragello children grew up to be very successful adults. But if you show the next photo at Christmas, which, okay, now we have color, I think you can clearly see that this is a Father Knows Best kind of It's a Wonderful Life picture. And if you look very, very closely, you can see the love and the cement and the glue that held us all together and created the bond that made us who we are today. So our feature is back to school, but what we're really talking about this evening is advice that we would give to our younger selves. And we're going to look back in a reflective way, some 30, 40, 50 years back to see what we would have said to our younger selves and what mistakes we made and what progress we've made and how we can add to the future queens of America with some, perspective and suggestions. So when we get to the fact that this is my sister and I'm so super proud of her and all of the things that she's accomplished, which I will list in a moment, we had to bring in a portrait of our brothers. Because they are watching, the two producers that they are. There's our celebration of our brother Dan's 70th birthday. But if you're looking at my desk, you see the beautiful picture that I have of the two of them on the desk, because they are truly the shining lights of the family. And while my sister and I are the bookends, oldest and youngest, somehow we were able to create some tremendous accomplishments between the two of us, but those are really the shining stars, or dare I say messiahs of the Moragello clan. So we couldn't leave them out of the conversation. So because they're not here live, we put them in portrait form. So let me tell you some of the accolades of my guest this evening in our opening sparkle. So she began as a registered nurse in Brooklyn. And then she became the founder of the Federation of Nurses, I believe in 1979.
Yes.
Yes. And today boasts over 200,000 members in this very dignified union of nurses. She serves as a chairperson to the New York State United Teachers Healthcare Professional Council. She is a chair of the AFT Healthcare Division. She is a mother and a grandmother. Can we show the picture of her three wonderful sons? Jason, Jeremy, and Jonathan, and her husband, Jerry. And she is still working. She's an elected official, and she carries the torch for advocacy for the nurses throughout New York City. A Staten Island resident, and she is someone who's going to comment today in our Queen's Court in answering questions about what would you say to the woman in the mirror 30 years ago, now that you're on the other side of the reflection.
So this is all about reflection and looking at these photos and these experiences. It certainly makes it look just lovely, but it's a struggle. And I think the message is always to be resilient, to have values, and to pursue them. When you know you're right, you find a way, a methodology to create space to succeed. That's what we all did in our family.
Yeah.
Some with a lot more applause than the two sitting here tonight. But nonetheless.
Yes, true.
Nonetheless, it has been an experience of a lifetime to learn values, to learn that rules matter, to learn that teamwork matters, and to achieve on behalf of yourself and on behalf of the people you love and the people that matter, which is everyone, to create a climate that is therapeutic, that is productive, and that is exciting. So to sit with you, what a great opportunity.
The best.
From the classroom into the podcast, I'm from the bedside into the bargaining table.
Yeah.
And you just say, how did you get there? And it all mattered. It all worked. And I think the advice is it's not easy. There will be setbacks. There will be disappointments, but keep going and know that life is not fair. So sometimes the inequities are discouraging. We can't sort that out. What we can do is decide how to respond to those challenges and to achieve something better. There are so many heroes that you find, you through education, me through nursing, and through my role as a unionist, where you see the courage people have to approach life and the obstacles that they face. So that's exciting, inspiring. And when you're young, you don't have the vision because there's many tomorrows. As you begin to age, you realize the tomorrows are sacred. They matter. And they're based on the foundation.
So let me explain to you from my perspective what I saw 30, 40, 50 years ago as a young girl in the same bedroom with my sister and our 80-year-old grandmother. Talk about living conditions. This was the best of the best. So she would come in from working night shifts. And, you know, I thought she was the coolest thing in the world because she had a fancy car and she had her own job and she was always drinking Coca-Cola and staying up late, and she had her own princess telephone. And I thought that that was the coolest thing in the world. But what I also saw and learned from was that she was a worker and she was driven and she was someone who didn't complain. And when I would ask her to be the chaperone for my class trip and she had 2 hours of sleep and was in the emergency room all night putting together, you know, a gunshot victim's arm, I would expect her to be the bubbly person that I wanted her to be, but she would fall asleep on the bus and I'd be like, oh God, what happens here? And I didn't really understand, you know, the enormity of the job that she had. But I think what I want her to elaborate on, because this is really important for people to understand, is that the very conditions that she lived under as a nurse in the 70s in Brooklyn at Lutheran Medical Center is what propelled her to unionize, right? So can you explain to people what were some of the inequities that you looked at 30, 40, 50 years ago that drove you to unionize the nursing staff?
It's all about fairness.
Right.
It was to level the playing field. I didn't know healthcare was a business. I thought we would all use the education, the skills, and the talent we had for every patient without regard for their socioeconomic status, for their education, and for their condition. I also thought I'd be able to use what I learned. None of that's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's a business. So what I found is to level the playing field and have voice to create a stronger environment, which everybody needs, because the greatest nurse advocacy is for patients, was the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So I never meant to do that. I love my job and so on. But what I created was a pathway for nurses to have voice, to create better working conditions for you, the patient, to create an environment that was fair, that didn't penalize people that had great compassion, who were seeking to do good work. And then over the years, that vision grew. You can't change it without a team,
Right.
without values and leadership. And today, what I can say is that we have led the success of how care is delivered.
Yeah.
And that is amazing because we are not the enemy. We are partners. We are partners that in relationships have created incredible environments, incredible laws that we all need.
Right.
And so there are many examples. I entered in a time of secrecy. In healthcare, you were not allowed to tell patients about choice. We had a coveted oath. You were not allowed to expose different treatments.
Mhm.
And it was a man's world. It was very different then. What needed to happen was the illusion of care and quality had to be real. In those days, they dressed everybody in white because the public assumed if you were a woman in white, you were a nurse. Some of them were housekeepers, some were dietary. You assumed if you were male, you were a doctor.
Right.
So we created a vehicle for the consumer to get knowledge of who was caring for you.
Right.
Patient Bill of Rights. We created a pathway, which today we celebrate. I was telling you, and all our family benefits from a lot of it, like the defibrillator.
Mhm.
One day, one of my children's teacher was playing in a fundraiser, Hoops for Hearts. He had a massive heart attack and died in the gym. If you can imagine the trauma, of course,
Mhm.
of losing this gifted teacher. And I and some of my colleagues said that wouldn't have happened if we had a defibrillator. And we said, we're going to get a law passed. And I was told, as I've been told throughout my journey, you'll never get it. No one wants to see those dirty things around. Well, today we celebrate
Yeah.
the ability to save lives because we didn't take no for an answer. So whenever we see a defibrillator, I smile and I say it didn't matter to that gentleman who we lost, but it matters to so many children on playing fields, to so many
Always.
people.
Yeah, we all have stories about that regarding children playing sports that needed that emergency
Yeah.
care. And thank you for that. So when we looked back in retrospect, and I remember saying to myself when I wrote these questions to prepare for today's podcast, what would I tell myself 30, 40 years ago? And I think I summed it up in be more confident. And I've said it before on the show, the two of us are products of Catholic school education, all girls, high schools, where our superstar athlete brothers went on to, all city status in baseball and football. We were academically holding the fort down at all girls Catholic schools. And I think it created or fostered a leadership that I've seen repeatedly in people. I've said this before. You can tell people that are in a room that have never been on a sport, right? And then don't have that collaborative mind. And you can also see women who have taken advantage of same-sex education and, rose above to the cream of the crop. But I wanted to say for a moment that you had to have made mistakes along the way. And some of them were things you learned from, and some of them were things that maybe set you back. So in reflection, what would you say as a young nurse were some of the mistakes you made that propelled you further into maybe taking the different route, which would be the union, lane that you kind of are in now?
Problem solving. So I thought if you did the right thing and you wanted the right thing, it would happen. Not true. So what I had to learn was how to message to people who didn't want to hear what I had to say. And that's critical as a person in society. What I learned is you may never come up with the solution I'm seeking, so I should tell you, because you may never in my life come up with the answer I'm seeking. And I didn't know that. I thought this happened organically. It doesn't. So problem solving is important, and that's in all the work that I do. I have learned how to make meaningful the things I'm trying to achieve to people who don't care. And that includes sometimes the industry, insurance companies, things of that nature. So I think it's very important to know people could be your spouse, could be someone in your household, may not know your favorite drink, may not know your favorite restaurant.
Mhm.
It's okay to tell them,
Right.
and it's okay to help people succeed.
So did you learn that by process of elimination because maybe women were not being heard early on, and we were also taught in our training in our high school, rooms to speak when spoken to and not to be too assertive because that's viewed in a different manner. So did you learn how to have a seat at the table, how to be in the room where it happens? These are all Hamilton references. Did you learn that by mistake? Were you shut out because of those reasons, that you were a female in a room where you were trying to make change and you expected it to happen because it was the right thing, and then
It didn't happen.
it didn't happen?
And I refuse to be shut out.
Amen.
Because the other people
Amen.
talking, and that goes to the laws. We've had many laws we've achieved. They don't understand what it means. And what I've learned is if I want you to support what I want, I have to let you have a piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem right, but I don't care. As long as I succeed at my goal
Right.
of getting it achieved, that takes maturity. It takes patience. And that's an ongoing battle.
Mm-hmm.
Because it deals with your perception, your education, what is the goal. It takes a while to show people why staffing ratios matter. We look at sports all the time, and I just see it very simply. If we don't have our team prepared to care for you, no matter how brilliant your doctor or surgeon, you're not getting the care you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
So we have done studies, we've done reports, and we show employers this is how you win. But when they win, we win. And what do we win is the opportunity to use our skills appropriately, and all that matters. So in life, as a woman who just thought you should know, you know me, you should be able to anticipate what I want. You should listen because I know what's of value. Nobody would listen to that until I achieve voice.
Okay.
And I'm the same person. They wouldn't listen to who now when they used to put their foot out to trip me, now they put their foot out and I step on it as I walk on by.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But this is where you're looking at an activist here. This is not somebody who is saying, I want you to take these matters into your hands and change the laws. This is a person who was on picket lines, pregnant, on picket lines with kids in strollers, was making signs and logos and creating measures for people to pay attention. I'm going to tell a funny story. So 39 years in education, and once a month we get the UFT journal that all the teachers, read about, teacher of the year, and what are some of the new techniques in the classroom, and let's start using more technology. And every freaking month, my sister would be in the magazine, and because we have very different last names, they would say, wow, this Ann Goldman, like she's really shaking it up for the healthcare people under the UFT umbrella. And I'd be like, one day I'm going to get in this magazine. So I finally retired in 2022, and they did a little blurb. It said tidbits. And it was because I won the crown for New York State. It had nothing to do with my 39 years of education. And I would laugh too. Like there'd be photos of her husband on a buffet line picking up a shrimp, at the Plaza Hotel. And I'd be like, why are they getting so much coverage? So I don't want people who are listening or viewing to understand that or misunderstand that this is not an activist. This is a pound the pavement activist. When we had union officials come to our small district in Nassau County, and they had bullhorns, and I'd be like, "Oh, do you know my sister?" They'd be like, "Ann Goldman." Yes, we know. And I would go right to the front of the line. Meanwhile, I wasn't looking to picket. I was just looking to say hello.
Well,
She's a mover and a shaker.
But
Mover
to
and a
be
shaker.
clear, let's be very clear. Those actions were needed. And the heads of those facilities, when their family was sick, always called me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the inside joke. Why are you calling me and not your $1 million baby, which is the salary of the people they have? And the reason is because I know how to achieve what you're looking for. The problem is I think everyone deserves that, and they think they only deserve that. So while it sounds that way, let me be clear. I did not become a nurse to become an activist. I became an activist because I want to be a good nurse.
Amen. Got it? Everybody's got this, right? So if you saw my promo, it was like, sing it, sister. That's what I'm literally meaning. Okay, here's our second question. What changes in healthcare and the women in these workspaces can you comment on favorably? So you've seen the transitions over the years. So now here we are, 2025. Obviously, after the pandemic, a lot of things have changed. But what changes in healthcare and the women who serve in these roles have you seen in a favorable light?
So there are so many women in medicine and nursing now, so much more education. There is a presence, and the veil of secrecy, the glass ceiling on that has been shattered.
Mhm.
Today, you look at your phone, you have an app. The app will give you your blood work, your results.
Right.
Years ago, we wouldn't tell you because we would decide what was best for you. The whole transition, and this is ever so important, is to realize to succeed, you have to be a part of your own plan.
Right.
And we have to help you understand how to achieve those goals. So every time that occurs, it's because of voice. And voice is good and competition is good. And that's what sports are about. But competition can make us all better and help us achieve more. So women are achieving every day,
Mhm.
whether it's in studies, whether it is what diseases are studies, what medication. You know, we would never give any value to you personally not being able to achieve a goal because we have goals and benchmarks. Today it's different. And all of that is because we have focused on the person and voice. And there are so many more women. Now we have a different issue, and that is to integrate the knowledge, the book knowledge, into reality and experience. And that's the transition in cheering on and welcoming a young new workforce
Right.
post-COVID
Post-COVID, right?
who has to learn and acclimate a little more to focus on people because this is a digital world.
It is.
And we want to make clear the quality of life includes your ability to communicate and to be responded to as a human being.
Right. So what needs going forward still have to be addressed? So what do you project will be the next big issues that have to be addressed in healthcare?
We have to decide our priorities and make sure that the judgment you make when you choose a doctor, a hospital, or the care you're getting are based on what it should be. Shouldn't be how many fish tanks are in the room. It should be how many is the staff. It should be infections. It should be a reality check on what is going on. And again, we've worked on that. Today, you can find that out. You can say, I'm having this surgery. What's your infection rate? Years ago, it was a secret.
Right.
You can also today thank us for second opinions. Years ago, our parents, our grandparents would say
Right.
you're disloyal if you dared to get
Right.
a second opinion.
It's like changing your hairdresser.
That's even worse.
It's even worse. But it's that kind of a concept.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
But that's the point.
That's the
Today,
point.
you would be foolish not to get a second opinion, and your doctor won't be offended. Years ago, they would be offended.
Yes, agree.
So the momentum is there. The real issue is what happens next in our state. I think it's about access and choice.
Okay.
That's a big deal,
Mhm.
especially in New York, is to be able to choose where you want to be cared for and to be able to have that access. Because
Right.
there is a line, you try and get surgery, you try and get the help you need, and the research will be based on that. So we have to constantly monitor, be vigilant, and see the data. Data matters about care. And we have to educate people.
Right.
You know, it took a year to talk people into washing their hands during COVID.
Yes.
So
Yes.
not so easy.
It was not easy. But, you know, it's so interesting, too, that this is what I think of. Like, now that there is ownership, you know, you go on your app and you look up, you know, my blood pressure. Oh, look at that. Oh, my weight. By the way, they're not weighing anybody anymore. They ask you, what is your weight? And everybody's lying. I also lie about my height. But anyway, they put everything on the app. Everything's neatly organized and you have it in a very concise manner. But here's my other question. So now when I see my vitals, I go down the rabbit hole and I start to Google everything that could possibly be wrong if 1 kilogram off on whatever my sugars are. So how do we rectify that with professional advice and people who are running amok on the internet, making their own decisions about their health?
So as an educator, you well know the challenge. The challenge is this. That's information. To translate that information, you need a healthcare professional. And that's the story and the key to everything. You can't look at it and have the same appreciation for all the factors that I or your doctor would have. What you have to do and what we have to teach people is that's a snapshot in time.
Right.
That is not the complete picture.
Right.
And so that's the problem. Instant gratification.
Yeah, that's what we are.
And it is not instantly correct. You know, it's life experience, it's the application of knowledge, it's knowing your norms.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do not have an instant answer. That's why you get care from a healthcare professional.
Agree. All right. On that note, we are going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Ever felt stuck with a home that just doesn't feel right anymore? Whether it's that outdated kitchen or the bathroom that needs a refreshed look, Twice as Nice Construction has got you covered. Family owned for over 20 years. Twice as Nice Construction has been providing beautiful new construction and additions and stunning remodels like kitchens and bathrooms. We're not just experts, we offer unbeatable quality and prices to help make your dream come true. Ready to start building your dream home or to give your kitchen and bathroom that much needed makeover? Contact Twice as Nice today and make your dream a reality. Visit twiceasniceremodel.com today for quality you can see and service you can trust. Twice the value, twice the commitment, Twice as Nice.
Welcome to Paradise Content Creation Studios, where your creativity finds its perfect home. Imagine a space where innovation meets inspiration at every corner. Our state-of-the-art facilities are designed to transform your ideas into extraordinary realities. Whether you're crafting cinematic masterpieces or viral content, we have it all covered. Join a community of creators who dare to dream and push the boundaries of possibility. With cutting-edge technology and a passionate team, your projects are destined for greatness. Step into a realm where every detail is meticulously crafted for your success. At Paradise Content Creation Studios, unleash the power of your imagination and watch it soar.
Hi, we're back. And we're talking about what things we would say to our younger selves to, I don't know, kind of remedy maybe the harshness we had as teens and as young adults. Because I know from experience that I was hard on myself about everything I ate, how I looked, how I appeared. That lack of confidence was really stifling. And I had to grow into a comfort level, which definitely did come with education. And I know you're all saying to yourselves, you were not a confident person, knowing my personality today. And the answer is yes, I was not. I was not. So I think we're looking back with my guest today, Ann Goldman, who happens to be my sister. And we're looking back at our younger selves and the things we would have said to ourselves maybe 30, 40, or even 50 years ago. So I thought we'd go into this segment with a picture of us at a very happy event, a wedding, when we would be saying to our younger selves, Bobby, let's maybe look at the final photo and perhaps have another celebratory drink at the bar. So if you see the woman in the background who's probably standing on a telephone book, that would be our mom. Because she was as tiny and petite as they get. But I loved that picture because we're so focused in on whoever is taking the photo. But what you're not seeing is the people around us are hysterical laughing because every celebration was just like that. Like good times, dancing, laughter, great food, family. And you look at those two young women in that photo and you say, the successful women that you see today on the panel, I'm going to give you a quote and I want you to comment on it and see where we can go with this, which is usually our tiara tip of the week. And it really is, speak kindly to your younger self because she was just learning. What would you say to that?
Kindness is the key to success throughout life. Our era was one of body shaming.
Yeah,
It was harsh. It was all about perfection, skincare, weight, and so on. We're in a different world now.
we are.
Women have found their comfort in being themselves and so on. But to your quote, we can't forgo kindness. It is probably the most important trait everybody has to have. Whatever you're doing, you're amazing in the teaching you've done, the lives you've affected. You're
Agreed.
amazing with this focus
Yeah.
and this
Here we are.
podcast.
Yeah.
But you have to be kind,
Yes.
or you devalue the lives that you intended to affect. So I think that the value on kindness is sometimes an attribute that's overlooked. You can be brilliant. You can be a lot of things, but if
Mhm.
you're not kind, you will never capture the success necessary. And kindness is gentle as you're fumbling and growing and learning. And children don't have that security. And today, in a digital world, they go through a lot of harsh judgments. You cannot be too kind, and you cannot focus enough on helping them achieve that confidence. People who aren't treated with kindness don't react kindly. And that benevolence is what makes the difference between a lot of the challenges we are trying to respond to in our communities, in our schools, in our hospitals. So I think that is an incredible value.
I agree. Do you think you were hard on yourself as a child?
I'm always hard on myself. The thing I do is start with me. I fault myself for anything that isn't successful that I touch. I would have
Good
to learn.
Lord.
I do.
She's not a cook. I'm just going to throw that out there. So it's not in the kitchen.
Not in the kitchen, but I do. I start with me. I don't see that today. Everybody starts with finger pointing. I start with me and say, is this something you could have handled differently? Could you have done it better? And now I understand I can fail. I could have made a judgment that was incorrect, but I always start with me. And then the second part is get it done. No matter
Right.
what, stop with the excuses, move along, get
Agree.
it done.
Agree. I think we're both like that. I think
Yeah.
very, very much so. Okay, so here is pretty much the conclusion. I usually ask a soul-searching question at the very end. Sometimes it gets people in trouble. Sometimes it's enlightening. Sometimes it's enriching. I'm giving you this. This is your crowning moment, not what is your greatest achievement, because you've had many. What is your one wish or blessing for the next generation of queens? Now, you have 2 granddaughters and 1 grandson. So, including all of them as royalty, what is your one wish or blessing for them going forward?
And for the daughter-in-laws,
And
who
for
are
the
so much a
daughter-in-laws.
part of my heart,
Right.
it is that they find comfort in who they are, in our family together, and understand it's okay to trip, get up when you fall, and help each other. Don't wait for each other to come to you. Always offer, be available, and let's work things forward. That's so important. A lot of times people sit in judgment, and I think that's a mistake. Time is precious. Time is a commodity we can't recapture. So by all means, help if you can help. If you know the answer, as we discussed earlier, to a solution that would be good, do it. And let's enjoy whatever time we have to the best we have and know that it is incredibly special.
Okay, so now as the guiding force of your family, as the matriarch, what, I guess, pursuit for your grandchildren would you offer to them that maybe was not available for your 3 sons? So what would you kind of try to guide them towards that you weren't able to do when you had your boys?
There are more choices now than there ever were. There are jobs I didn't even know existed. I think it's
Supply chain.
knowing. Yeah, it's knowing you really can pick and achieve anything. There is not a limit on that, on the imagination, but you have to be happy. You have to appreciate your accomplishments, and you always have to be thankful. I think they got all that.
Mm-hmm.
I just think there is more of a vast universe from which to choose today than perhaps there was as each of them went through their journey.
Right. Okay. So availability and options and making the right choices and all of the things we say as parents to all of our
Yeah.
children. Okay. So we're almost at the end of our togetherness. I hope that what people took away from today's show was that these ways in which my sister was able to create a job that empowered not only herself but her profession and the people that she's surrounded with is something that she grew organically. She did because there was a need, and she saw that, and she took action. We went to lunch before we came here, and we had conversations about the next generation. And I don't want to use the term millennials, and I don't want to go into Gen Alpha and Gen Z, X, Y. I want to just say that you are looking at two public servants, right, that maximized our capabilities, made differences in people's lives, and did that without making excuses and without making a lot of complaints part of the equation. So the message here is not how great we are, but we kind of are. And the message is for future generations and for the women and the men who are watching that action, when you have a strong belief behind something, is really the blueprint for success. And in this world, which we're saying there's so many more options and there's so many more means of availability for people to achieve greatness, it always does come down to choices. And that's parenting. That's always going to be what you're learning in your home. So if my parents could see us now on a podcast that's being viewed by maybe 70 people. Come on, guys. Got to get more likes and subscribers. They would say how proud we are of the daughters that we raised, but they're still not equal to the shining stars that we had as sons. But that's okay, because maybe that's how we got to where we are, because we were able to see the example set by our family, our parents, but we were also able to do it on our own without that mindful eye constantly judging and allowing us to be who we became. So thank you very much for traveling in today. I appreciate it. I'm going to give you my little royal invitation for the next show, which will be in 2 weeks on the 23rd. It will be the first gentleman that I am hosting on my podcast. And it is pretty much the gentleman who started me on the journey towards pageantry. It is Assemblyman Michael Durso, who was gracious enough to give me a Woman of Distinction Award in 2022 when I retired. And from that path, I went down into a different venue with New York Senior America and opened up all of these opportunities that you're seeing in front of you. So Mr. Durso is a friend. He is an advocate for women. He is an advocate for veterans in this district. And he is a girl dad. And I am so honored that he is going to come on the 23rd and share his insights about being an advocate and being active as a politician and being a positive role model to not only his own family, but the people in the community that he serves. So thank you again. And we hope to see you in 2 weeks on the 23rd. Have a great evening.